This is the greatest accomplishment of our people throughout the history of living in this land, in this country. Nothing comes close, and so far, nothing will continue to be, because of what they accomplished in such a short period of time. It's beyond comprehension. This is an event that we must memorialize so all of our generations can understand who we are in this land, what we have accomplished, and we should stand up with absolute pride of the actual accomplishments that was established many years ago by our people that is being neglected today. They tell you that you must celebrate the 4th of July. The answer is why? 4th of July of 1776 was no celebration for our people. However, there was a period that actually took place, accomplished by our people, that merits our celebration. And that is July 8th of 1860. Why is that date so important? Because our people have accomplished something that no one has ever been able to do. Let's take a step back here. Slavery was prevalent throughout that time. Our people were enslaved, and we were trying to figure a way, how do we get ourselves out of slavery? Now, I want you to understand something very critical. When I say our people, I'm making a general statement, but people, black people in this country, even since that day and until today, are divided as to what does it mean to be independent. There was a movement that started in 1660, 200 years before 1860. However, the movements that came later are civil rights and other movements that came hundreds of years later. Nonetheless, this movement of 1660 had an idea of how they should be free from slavery. Very different from those who did not share their view. Who am I talking about? Who did not share their view? I'm talking to the ones who are referred to as the pro-American Africans or black people. Black people that believe that this is their country. And these people had a different movement. Their movement was based on integration, collaborating with people who held them in captivity. People like Harriet Tubman, people like Frederick Douglass, even people like Martin Delany. These are the people that fought in sense of freedom through a system that allowed them to integrate with other people that held them in captivity. However, the movement that I'm referring to has nothing to do with that. And that's the story that's been buried under our ground, and now we're here to tell you the entire story. In 1660, our people decided, because of a promise made to them, that they should start their own country right here in this land that they were in the year 1660. It's called Mahali because they used the Kiswahili word, meaning promised land to them, because they believed it was promised to them by the Creator to form this country. Completely different movement from Frederick Douglass and all these other organizations of civil rights, Martin Luther King and so forth. They thought they could establish their own independent country. But first, they had to get away from slavery. How were they going to accomplish this in the year 1660? That movement prevailed throughout a 200-year period, which created a war, a single war that lasted 200 years, beginning in 1660, ending in 1860. So now we're talking about the end of that war that accomplished a great accomplishment. The accomplishment was to end slavery, and they accomplished it. Our people, we freed ourselves. No one freed us outside of ourselves. Now, they've been telling you and educating you, and even your leaders will tell you that other people freed you. That is not the case. There's no evidence to prove that. The evidence is in our hands, and we're sharing it with you today. The liberator of our people that ended slavery is a man by the name of Cato. Cato is the liberator of our people in this land. Because of what he did and the people that worked with him, we are not living with chattel slave condition, with chains on our necks, or chains on our wrists, or chains on our ankles, because of him and all the people that work with him. The name is Cato. Not Abraham Lincoln, not anyone else, but Cato, the one that ended slavery for our people. What exactly did he do that allowed him to get to this point? Understand, there was a 200-year war. That war was ongoing every single year. Throughout the whole 200-year period, there was a battle by our people. People that you recognize by name. People like Nat Turner. Nat Turner went to war, not to integrate. After killing the children of people, the people that he was going against, he killed their children, he killed their spouses. There's no way he would integrate. Integration would be out of the question. He was doing it for a country. He wanted to form a country for our people. The same thing with Telemaque, people call Denmark Vesey. Same with him. It also appears the same thing with Gabriel Prosser, who actually went by the name of Samson. Nonetheless, there were many battles, 200 battles, and those people that you recognize are just a small number of all the others that went to war every single year for 200 consecutive years. And out of that movement, it's called the Mahali movement because it was a war of Mahali. Why Mahali? Because that's what they believed. They believed a land was promised to them. It was a battle, a war, a promised land to achieve the goal of having a promised land. And that's what they all talked about. Nat Turner talked about it. Telemaque talked about it. Gabriel Prosser talked about it. They were all saying the same thing. In 1860, the war came to an end when it ended slavery by a man named Cato. Cato did the impossible. He organized his people in his state. He lived in the state of Texas, in the city of Dallas, Texas. And he organized his people. In this case, Cato was successful in executing his plan. He got it, the people started in the city of Dallas, Texas. They were going to come up with a plan to end slavery. And his plan was destroy everything that's valuable to them, and that was their worth, their money. And they went after their money. This was the plan. On January 8th of 1860, they had organized to implement a plan to burn every single structure throughout the entire state. And they did it. In 1860, they started putting fires all throughout the city of Dallas. As a matter of fact, he did something that no one has ever done. Even the reports from the media of those days, the newspapers, were stating that the city of Dallas was on fire, and literally the entire city fell under fire in a matter of just 2 hours. In 2 hours, they destroyed an entire city, the major city of the state of Texas. Texas is the largest state of America, and that's who we went after. And it started in Dallas and ended up all the way down south. In that single day, the plan was to be executed in one day, and they got the results that they wanted. This is the day that we must never forget, because 9 months after what he did, it propelled what we call today the Civil War, because the people in Texas and the people from the South were absolutely embarrassed of what this man was able to do without them recognizing that this was coming, and took away their wealth. They had no other option to maintain the state of Texas but going to war against the Union, because they had lost so much value because of what Cato did to them. He nearly broke the state of slavery. As a matter of fact, it caused all of the others who were part of the Confederacy to join this war and start a civil war to keep slaves, to maintain slavery. And guess what? They lost. They lost because a lot of what they had was already burnt away from them, and they saw their fortunes in fire with their own very eyes, and they had no power to change that. And that's why we ended slavery, because of the actions of Cato. The President of the United States, Abraham Lincoln, had no choice but to do what he did and liberate us because of what Cato did. That's right. Our hero, Cato, the liberator. Remember that name. In 1860, this is what took place. This is greater than any other event that America wants for us to participate in, because 1776 was not our liberation. It had nothing to do with our people. Matter of fact, our people were still under bondage in 1776. It wasn't until 1860 when Cato and the people who worked with him, a massive, massive number of people that were working throughout the entire state of Texas to wipe it out. Yes, that's the accomplishment that deserves our praise. Remember July the 8th, 1860. That's the day that we got the ending of slavery, because of one man and the people that worked with him to end this for everyone, for all of our people, those who were in favor of having their own nation and those who were pro-Americans and wanted to integrate. They both were liberated by Cato. It's something that those who do not believe in a nation should recognize, because without Cato, you would not be in the position that you are today. And it's going to continue, because I told you this was a movement of liberation, of having our own country, a nation for our people. And we have done the incredible. We have done the hard work through our bloodshed in the 200-year war. And after that, we decided to go into economics, and now we've gone into politics. That's right. People like me, just like Cato and other people before them, want to form a country for our people. You're one of those people who want to have a nation, and we can do this right here in this land. It's always been the dream since 1660, and now we're executing it. For the first time in the history of America, a pro-black independence political party, and let me explain what pro-independence means. It means that they want to have their own nation. A black political party that focuses on forming a nation for our people. For the first time in the history of this country, it was established in the year 2020. 3 years ago, that party was established. And the goal, just like Cato of 1660 and everyone in between, to form a country, a nation for our people. And you have the ability to be part of that and make that happen in our lifetime. And how do I know this is all possible? How do I know that this can actually come into realization? Because we have done the hard work, the research to determine whether in fact we can do this. Something that leaders don't talk about, because they don't have the ability to do this, because they're always on their knees. We are not on our knees. We don't ask. We execute. We execute where we're headed, what we're doing. And the way we do this is by conducting surveys. We conducted a national survey. How many of us want a nation? Well, here's the deal. Through all the surveys that we've done on a national basis, the lowest number of states in terms of state surveys was 20%. The state with the highest percentage of agreeing to form a country, the state of Texas. Large number of black people in Texas want to have their own nation. They lead the numbers in population. And you may ask, why Texas? Because that is the state that ended slavery. And it required almost all the black people in that state to execute that plan. So, because it is the largest state in the country, it's developed a large population that have heard this message, not exactly how I present it, but in basic terms. The principle is still in place. We want our own country. That's the basic principle, and they believe it. But the same thing is true when it comes to the KKK, the people of the Civil War. How do we know that they're still around? Because we see them all over, wearing the Confederate flag. And who are those people that wear Confederate flag? These are the descendants of the people of the Civil War, the KKK. These are their children. So the same thing applies to us. In Texas, it has the highest percentage of support for the nation because that's where the major war took place. The war that ended slavery, and it's told throughout all households. We're forming a country. Join us and be part of the greatness of forming our country for our people. The hard work has already been established because of the great liberator, Cato. Now it's our turn to continue and take it to the final step, and let's form a great nation, the nation of Mahali.